Welcome to Anytown, USA. Tonight we take you to a small town in the southern United States, filled with law-abiding citizens ready for the annual deer hunting season to begin yet again, as it did last year, and as it did the year before that. Nothing much changes, things keep going along in this down-to-earth town. Yet up in the sky, a flaming orb hurtles towards this town at a blistering pace. The orb crashes down on the outskirts of this sleepy town, and as the inhabitants prepare for business as usual, they should be preparing for a visitor from out of this world. This is It Records. Welcome back, everybody, to the It Records podcast. 'Tis I, Matt Johnson, talking to you again. And as always, we booked him, guys. Don't worry, we booked him. We got Peter and we got Lindsay here.
I'm not cheap either.
Yeah. Had to put a retainer down for Pete.
However, I can be bought. Got that stimulus check today.
You got
That's
it too?
right.
I didn't fucking get mine.
You didn't get yours?
Wow.
No, I'm fucking mad. I bet mine's coming in. I bet mine's coming in the mail. Like,
Okay.
I bet.
Oh, yeah.
It probably is.
No.
And it's
Not direct deposit?
Yeah, even though I got direct deposit last year for taxes, and I'm gonna have fucking Trump's name on the goddamn check.
I know, I thought you were going to say that. You have his big name right on that check.
Yeah, it's gonna be a giant check too. Just gonna try and put it in my mailbox.
And it's going to be like one of those old TV shows where they brought you the check at your door or whatever it was. It's going to be one of those for everybody.
Yeah,
Just
and
a bunch of stacked up.
and just like $1,200. Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
This will almost pay my rent.
I mean, speaking of that, how are you guys doing? What have you been doing since we last spoke? / watching?
Oh God. Anything that's horror related, I don't think I have. Like, besides this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said before we started recording, I've been playing a lot of Fire Emblem on my Switch,
Mm-hmm.
and binging the shit of Doctor Who. That has been my days.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
As for me, it's been a lot of, I restarted Charmed, and
nice.
Desperate Housewives, so that's what I do on my days home. So, how about you, Matt?
Nice. Good question. I think I had mentioned a while ago I started Modern Family because someone recommended it to me, but only if they send me the DVDs. So I watched 1 through 4, and I finally got 5 through 7, I think, in the mail the other day. So I have to start watching those.
Okay.
That will be next on my list. Which, by the way, that show just ended last week. I think was the series finale.
I didn't
That's
even know it was
wild.
still on. Didn't know it was still on the air.
It has like 11 or 12 seasons, I think.
Wow.
Something like that. So I'll catch up on that. I finished up The Witcher. That took me forever. I moved and I got lost track watching that show, so I finished Witcher, so that was awesome. And I saw Richard Jewell, that Clint Eastwood movie about the 1996 Atlanta Olympic bombings.
Okay.
Is that the one? No, that's not the one on the train. That was something else that he did.
No, that was like that. Yeah, that was the one that was, I think, filmed with the real people who stopped like a terrorist attack on a train in France.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, and he used the real soldiers, I think, to play the actors. As
Yeah,
themselves.
that sounds right.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of that one though.
It was like 15 something. I don't know. It was like a number.
Yeah, I wanted to say like 310 to Yuma, but I know that's not right.
Yeah.
But it's like that kind of a title.
Yeah. That'd be funny. I'm looking it up because I want to know. It has nothing to do with this movie whatsoever, but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like Clint Eastwood. Now I don't like him so much. He's made some bad movies.
Yeah, same. Not so much anymore. Take it back to Fistful of Dollars.
I mean, what was it? Unforgiven. That's like his last good. No, Gran Torino was pretty good.
Yeah, $1 Million Baby. I think Gran Torino was after $1 Million Baby.
Was that around 2013?
Gran Torino was 2008. American Sniper was 2014, which I've never seen.
Okay.
Sully and Richard Jewell. I guess he didn't do that train movie. What the fuck? I could have sworn he did it.
I did too. I thought he did, or maybe he produced it. I thought that was Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I got to find this train movie. Not descriptive enough. 1517 to Paris.
Okay, so it wasn't too far off on 310 to Yuma.
You just gotta
1517 to Paris.
You times 5 and then I don't know. You add a 2.
Add 7.
Oh, it is directed by Clint Eastwood. I guess I got a partial filmography from Wikipedia. I hate when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Give me everything.
But to round out the my watching, I haven't watched this one. It's a horror one though. I have it on Blu-ray. Deep Red by Dario Argento.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's a good movie.
Like I'm not gonna.
So that one.
At first, which is crazy because I've seen that movie, but my brain processes it as Red Eye. You remember that movie?
I
don't know why.
Adam's thriller.
I've never seen that movie, but it just it's been on my mind because I always thought that guy was creepy, and I've always wanted to see it.
Yeah, Killian, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that Wes Craven though too?
Yes.
It is Wes Craven.
Yeah, that's Wes Craven. Yeah.
I have that movie.
That's
I'll
crazy.
send it to you. You can borrow it.
Yeah.
Yeah, send me a little mail little. What's it called again? A happy thing in the mail. What's it? A good.
Care package?
Yeah, thank you. I was saying good package, but I know that wasn't right. I was like,
Give one of them good packages.
Not a bad package, a good one. A bad package is like anthrax and taxes.
Yeah, you don't want those packages.
Oh, shit.
Uber Pass. Well, that's what we've been watching this week, other than this movie we watched for the podcast, which we did the 2006 film directed by James Gunn, Slither, which, if you don't know, is a small town is taken over by an alien plague, turning residents into zombies and all forms of mutant monsters. That's the basic premise, the idea of the movie, if you haven't heard of it.
Throughout the years, these classic horror films had one thing in common. From Universal Pictures comes a film so shocking,
We've got a real problem here.
so disgusting,
Don't let him in your mouth!
it will change the face of horror.
They're doing things to people, turning them into some kind of monsters.
How's everybody's evening? Good? Good.
Something's wrong with me.
Slither.
Have you ever seen anything like that? Me neither. I watch Animal Planet all the time.
But, yeah, we watched Slither, and I believe this was Pete's pick this week?
Yeah, it is.
Right? Why, if I may ask, Pete, why Slither?
Good question. One, because before shit completely closed down, I rented 3 movies from this local rental store, and I rented Slither, Dodgeball, and THX 1138, which is George Lucas's first movie. So I'm all over the place. And then I thought, like, Courtney would think that Slither was funny or whatever, because I remember really liking it, because I've seen this movie before. I watched it probably when I was like 18 or 19 years old, so it's been a while since I've seen it. And I was like, oh, this seems like a fun little romp. It's like, since I rented it, it's my next choice. Easy, I got it done.
Nice.
Had you seen it before?
I've seen it before, but I haven't seen it in a long, like, it's since I was like 18 or 19 years old.
18 or 19. Okay.
Yeah. So like 9 years ago.
Yeah. Lindsay, had you seen it before? Or is this first viewing for Slither?
Never even heard of it.
Oh,
Yeah. I was like, are we about to watch a snake movie? Or,
It's close to a snake.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd never heard of it, didn't know anything about it. So, yeah, it was new to me.
Interesting.
Had you heard of it or seen it before?
I had never seen it, but I can remember this movie coming out. It was like 2006. I was in 8th grade. And I can... The poster art, with the VHS art, whatever was popular at the time, it's like burned into my memory, where it's the girl in the tub, and it's all of the organisms, whatever they are, like coming towards it. Like, that was burned into my brain. And I wanted to see it, but I don't think I was 17 at the time, so I couldn't go see it in theaters unless I like snuck in, which I didn't. But it's always been on my radar. This is my first viewing, though, of Slither.
This was my first James Gunn movie, because I think he didn't, at the time I watched it, he obviously didn't do Guardians yet. Mm-hmm. I've still never seen Super, and I think I don't remember if he's directed a trauma film, but I know he used to work with a lot of trauma films, which you see in the movie where one of the characters is watching Toxic Avenger, which is like the most famous trauma movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just for reference, Pete mentioned James Gunn. I mean, he's Guardians of the Galaxy writer and director, right?
Yeah.
Both of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's... And you'll notice... Oh, I'm going to butcher his name. What's his... You know who I'm talking about, Pete? Michael Rooker?
Yeah.
Michael Rooker is in Slither, but he's also in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in Slither, I believe, is the first time they actually worked together. And from then on out, he's in almost every James Gunn film he's ever done.
I don't think I've ever made that connection, because I just feel like I still haven't seen enough of James Gunn, either because he hasn't directed a lot, or...
Mm-hmm. He's a big
what?
writer. I think he writes more than he directs, and if he directs, he wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, I know he's gonna do, like, the new Suicide Squad. Oh, he wrote Scooby-Doo. That's hilarious. I kind of forgot about that. He wrote Dawn of the Dead, which is pretty interesting.
He also did a movie we did on this podcast, a little trivia, early in the show. Do you guys know what movie we've done on the podcast that James Gunn wrote but did not direct?
I already spoiled it for myself because I'm looking at it right now.
I have no idea, so I'm not even going to pretend like I know. Hit me with it.
Pete, you got it?
The Belko Experiment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would have been like right around Guardians time. 2016, I think, was the Belko Experiment, and Guardians would have been around 2015, 2014.
Yeah, it was like right after the... Was it the second? No, was it the first or second?
That would have been the first one.
Yeah, because the second one I think was like 2017 or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's James Gunn. And I think this is one of his first real ventures into like a horror genre. I don't really know a lot of his early stuff that he wrote, but a lot of his other stuff doesn't seem to be in that genre.
No, I feel like I'm looking at it right now, and he said that he was like an associate on Tromeo and Juliet, which is a trauma film. And I don't think I would really consider that a horror movie, but it is very gross. So, we're about to get into, so there's a very gross movie.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, that kind of gets into the horror significance. I would pose to you guys, you said it's very gross, where you guys might think this falls in a subgenre of horror. And it could be multiple, but we can kind of discuss where it falls.
Definitely comedic and sci-fi aspects to it, but overall probably just body horror movie is what I would classify it under.
It's pretty spot on, honestly.
Yeah. Like, from someone who wanted to see it, I didn't know it would have such a comedy element to it. Like, it's very, like, slapstick comedy, horror, B-movie type horror to it. It's intended comedy. Like, yeah, like, it's slapstick. It's like poking fun of itself, but also very much intense body horror. That I was not really expecting either. I did not expect both ends of that spectrum.
It's really weird because, like, seeing it again, like, I saw, like, obviously there's another movie that I love that's, like, very similar, because it's, like, Night of the Creeps is also kind of, like, about, like, like a slithering creature that goes into your brain, and then it slowly kills you. I believe you turn into a zombie. So it's, like, kind of similar, and then, like, the body horror that this movie is really gross. I'm trying to think what it reminds. It kind of reminds me of Society. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it. It's
very weird. Slight spoiler. There's aliens in that movie, and they look like Michael Rooker does, pretty much. They're just really gross, and they're having sex a lot in that movie. It's very weird. It's a very weird movie.
Okay. But yeah, you mentioned, like, Night of the Creeps, and I feel like this movie does a good job of not only just Night of the Creeps, but a lot of homages to different horror films. Like, not too spoilers, but, you know, it could have Night of the Living Dead, The Thing, The Blob, even.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think it works well that it's referencing all of those in this comedy. Like, not really poking fun of them so much at all. But I think when you're doing a lot of referential horror, in a horror film, when you're doing a lot of referential stuff to other movies, it works well when it's, like, meta or comedy. Like Scream. Scream's scary, but it's like, it has that comedy element to it.
Yeah.
Now, that's something that I ran across when I was reading, footnotes in the movie about how it actually was there was this controversy of this movie being a ripoff of Night of the Creeps. Is that right? That you referenced, Pete. So, do you think that's true?
No, I think it's just, like, heavily inspired, you know. I think it has enough differences where it's like, I mean, I feel like a lot of movies can claim it was a ripoff of something. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, people say Avatar is a ripoff of Pocahontas or whatever. But there's, like, enough differences in Avatar to make it a different movie. And that's just my opinion. But I, like, to say the same thing for most movies that are inspired by other movies.
Yeah, and even for, like, Night of the Creeps and this one, there's I mean, as, like, the aliens going into your brain, like, making you a zombie, that is an element in this film, but there's so much more going on. Like, so if you made every reference to another movie was a ripoff, I feel like it'd be hard to pay homage to anything or, like, make original films even, because you'd be like, oh, that's like this, where it's destined to happen almost, like that something is going to have the same element. Like, that's why there's genres, I guess. The slasher genre, like, is Friday the 13th a ripoff of Halloween? No, like, they're both stalker slashers, but there's enough differences between them.
Like, you could say The Burning, I don't know if you guys is a total ripoff of Friday the 13th, which I agree with, but I love The Burning more than Friday the 13th. Because it just knows what it is, and Friday the 13th doesn't really know what it is until later on.
Oh, definitely. That first movie is like all over the place.
Like, I like it, but I feel like I don't really like it until like 4, 5, 6, even 7 and 8. I like 7 and 8. I like all those, and I haven't seen 9. Yeah. 10 is awful, and I like the remake.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard of the podcast? I think it's In Voorhees We Trust with Gorley and Rust.
Yes, I have heard of it. I have not listened to it yet, but I want to.
No, but that sounds intriguing.
It's great. It's basically each episode of the podcast they're going over one movie in the Friday the 13th franchise. But they start the podcast off with rating the movies in order based on what they remember. So they don't look at any critics or like watch them, but they're like, from what I remember, I think this one was pretty good. I'll give it a 5.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then they come back to it when they get to that movie.
I feel like that's something I would do. Like if someone because I always mention to people that I love horror movies, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, from what I remember, Friday the 13th 4, that's pretty good." Something
that's a good one.
Yeah, the kid was there. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the horror significance, where it falls, but I guess we can go a little bit into the plot. What happens in this movie? We've kind of given you like a general idea of the movie, but where does it take off from? And from the beginning, the first scene is really, it sets the tone. I thought it's like these two cops, and you only see one really, who is like, he's got his radar gun, and he's taking the speed of, was it birds or something?
Yeah, it's birds.
Yeah, and it's clearly like a boring town where nothing goes on. And then it like cuts to like a meteor coming down to the earth, and like back and forth until it finally hits. And then this like kind of, I don't know, bluegrass or country type of music kicks on, and it shows the town. And you're immediately transported in this world where, yes, there's maybe some alien substance or a meteor, but it's going to be a hell of a ride because of the tone of that song compared to like the cops who are like so bored, and now there's like an alien. So you already know this movie is going to hit the fan really quick.
It picks up really fast too.
Oh, agreed, because within like the first 10 minutes is just, hey, here's the cop who wanted the girl, which is Nathan Fillion, by the way. Which was very funny to me watching this because I just finished Big Mouth. Did you guys watch Big Mouth at all?
I love Big Mouth. I love that show.
And one of the characters has an obsession with Nathan Fillion. So I was watching that as I watched this, and I went, oh my god, Nathan Fillion. He's just absorbing my life right now. But he's the cop who's like the good old boy who never left town. He's the cop, and we learn that he also has a crush, and has always had a crush on a character who's played by Elizabeth Banks, who is a school teacher in town. And we meet her, and she's teaching a class about, I believe, survival of the fittest. It's a Darwin class, so it's really about, we only think that humans are the most evolved species because nothing else has come along. Foreshadowing. Exactly. We have an alien. And we learn that she is married to is he the sheriff of the town?
I forgot what he does.
Elizabeth Banks?
No, who she's married to. Michael Rooker's character, Grant.
I don't think he's the sheriff. He's just like they never showed what he did. I don't remember.
Okay.
But he's well-to-do, has a lot of money.
Yeah, he's a lot of money. He's like, he just has a lot of money. I don't remember what the fuck he does. That's a very good question.
Yeah. So he's some high level in the town, mayor, sheriff, something, a lot of money in this small town, and he's married to Elizabeth Banks, and apparently we learn it's because she was poor and left on her own, I think, and like her parents left or something like that. She was left, and she married to him because she thought it was the best avenue for her to get along in life, but she might not really love him. enter love triangle potential with Nathan Fillion and Michael Rooker and Elizabeth Banks.
Can we talk about how Michael Rooker's name in the movie is Grant Grant?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just love that.
Yeah. It's just discussed so nonchalantly in the film, but it's a funny bit that's just kind of passed off really quickly. Mm-hmm.
I am looking up what he does right now, and I'm not seeing. They're not being very clear, and it's bothering me.
Yeah. Well, what? Yeah, he's some high up in South Carolina, small folk town, whatever it is, and we learn, as Pete mentioned, it takes off pretty quickly. Where we go to the home of Elizabeth Banks and Michael Rooker, and he wants to be intimate and she does not. So that sets him off to go into town to a bar to kind of be by himself on his lonesome, to where he might pick up a lady who he leaves the bar with. And he leaves the bar and they go out into the woods, into the wooded area, and they start messing around for a second till he realizes there's some weird orb on the ground. That's this weird thing. We don't know what it is. And it shoots him in the chest. And we see from like this x-ray vision shot something crawl up into his brain. And from there it kind of takes off of like there's something shot into his body, into his brain, that is maybe controlling him, maybe not. And he heads home. And I don't think that's... I guess that could be the end of Act 1, roughly, is where he gets struck with the alien probe and he goes back home.
Yeah, it is weird how you... I don't know how you would break down this movie, because it's like...
Yeah.
Like, then the rest of it's like him slowly deteriorating, like eating raw meat, like, and it's so disgusting. And just like making a nest. And then, like, all those, like, dead animals in his basement. And then him, like... I'm trying to think what else. I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but I just feel like... It's really, like, him changing into, like, a creature. I think is the bulk of Act 2. And then, like, probably, like... After he attacks that one lady he, like, almost hooked up with... Yeah. Is like really when it starts getting towards like the climax of the movie is like probably like, but I know I'm skipping over so much. Like I know there's like the mayor who's an asshole.
I love that mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good character. I like him. And then like you have like someone's teenage daughter at some point. I forgot what that guy does.
Oh yeah, that's right. On that like secluded farmhouse.
Yeah, yeah, he's like...
She was yelling us around.
Like, I would say, like, when they chase Grant into the forest is probably, like, where Lindsay would jump in. But I'm trying to, like, stitch together what happened in between, and I don't think I remember everything, honestly.
It's hard to kind of like, I can't remember the sequence in which things happen because it's all so crazy. Like, yeah, it's difficult to break this down a little bit into acts, I would say.
And there's more meat at the end of the movie. Like, there's a lot setting him up. But
pun intended?
I didn't intend it at all. But I'm glad it worked out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the second part, as you said, it's basically just the metamorphosis of Grant into, like, a creature.
Yeah.
From, like, human to, like, weird humanoid to, like, creature that looks like a lobster type thing.
Yeah, very
a Jabba the Hutt, if you will.
very blob-like. And that's like where that makes me think of Slither, because there's like a creature like that in society that looks exactly like that.
Yeah, and he's just like hoarding like dead dogs in the basement, like in like,
yeah, just eating any meat he can find. Yeah,
because he's so hungry. That's like the whole premise. Is like they're so hungry all the time, and like never satiated, including the woman who he.
Yeah.
Pregnant.
Yes. That was a sight to behold.
Yeah, Lindsay, you can take it from here.
Okay. So I'm just going to read this off Wikipedia just for anybody that cares, because there's just no better way to put it. So what happens to the woman that he attacks?
That's what I did in college.
Like this group, like the cops and Starla, stumble upon her because they're trying to look for him. He ran off. So, quote, has become inhumanly bloated from the larvae living inside her. The slug-like larvae burst from her body. And this is, like, absolutely disgusting to be watching. And that, like, so all these, like, little, like, worm-type organisms start, like, crawling out, and there's thousands of them. And they get, like, everybody in the crew that's, like, working to take down Grant, except for Starla, Bill, the mayor, and then the teenager that we talked about briefly before. Like, her family, like, they're out, the ones out in that kind of secluded house. Her family actually gets attacked, and she's the only one that's able to survive, like, you know, these, like, worm, like, creatures, I don't know, and, like, they, you know, each person that gets attacked by these, like, they become kind of a part of, like, a hive mind, is how Wikipedia puts it, controlled by Grant, so they're all Grant. You know, they're all speaking as if they were Grant, and they have Grant's memories, and they can, like, speak to Starla, you know, as if they are him. So that's pretty creepy. So, let's see. What happens after that? There comes a point where Bill and the teenager Kylie, they get separated from Starla and the mayor Jack. You know, they're kind of, like, Starla has been spared at this point because she's his wife and he still has, you know, love for her, but nobody else. So Bill and Kylie have a grenade that they plan on using to kill Grant. So at this point he's at home, and this is a pretty gross scene when you see, like, those that have been infected being absorbed into Grant, who just keeps getting bigger and more mutated. So several of them, including the mayor, are being turned into breeders for more larvae. And so, like, this has been affecting the entire town at this point. Like, most people are walking like zombies, and, you know, it just keeps getting worse. And Jack, the mayor, who we love, asks Bill to put him out of his misery. So he does, and this is while Starla tries to gain Grant's trust. You know, by saying that she loves him and all this stuff, but actually she tries to, like, when she gets close to him, she tries to stab him with her, like, brush from her room. But that doesn't work, and Bill tries to use the grenade that they have, but he fails when it's knocked by Grant into a pool. Grant attacks both Bill and Kylie with his tentacles and a couch, respectively. But in doing this, Bill is able to stick one of the tentacles to a propane tank, and Starla shoots him, and so while he's filled with flammable gas and being shot, he dies, and then as a result the rest of the aliens die too. And then the movie kind of just finishes us off as Starla, Kylie, and Bill are the three survivors. And this isn't a post-credits scene that I didn't stick around to watch, but I don't know if you guys watched this, but yeah, the last part.
I did.
They show a cat that, like, walks up to Grant's remains and gets infected by the parasite. So I don't know how that looked, but that's how it ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good job.
I wrote part of that
succinct.
out. It was a lot to remember.
It is a lot. There's a lot that happens in the last, like, 20 minutes.
Yeah. It definitely, it ramps up. Well, yeah, I mean, it builds up. I mean, it starts pretty quickly, and then it ramps up after all those things come out.
Yeah.
Are born. Like, it's nonstop. I guess I have two things I would ask. The first one being, though, what did you guys think of the use of practical effects and CGI in this film?
I think it's done pretty well, honestly. Like, there's some moments of CGI that, like, okay, that looks a little like dated, but I think it ages a lot more gracefully than other movies, because like this movie's over 10 years old and still looks pretty damn good in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with him.
Yeah, I think James Gunn was like pretty conscious of using practical effects as much as they could. And so like when you see Grant, a lot of it, I mean, is practical effects, and a lot of those worms things you see are CGI, but they're so small that like it's not really jarring bad CGI or anything. So it's not like it's a huge monster that's like, oh, that looks really bad. It's these tiny little specks that are just like red dots almost. And then Grant is basically CGI. Sorry, he's practical.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I was like having this conversation with Courtney, like how like it came up after this movie, like how we should just continue to always blend the mix of practical and CGI, because like, you know, it's stupid to get rid of one over the other, because like practical, I think, you know, if it, yeah, you could tell it's fake, but it looks really good, and like people put a lot of effort to make that look good, and but it's like not to take away from other like people that do that digitally, but it ages faster, so like it doesn't look as good after a few years. But like if you just find a way to combine the two, like many movies have done in the past, like especially with like, I feel like Spielberg kind of does that a lot. Like he just like is really good at like, you know, using stuff that's practical and then using CGI to expand certain parts. Like they did that in Lord of the Rings. They did, you know, but if you do it too much, like in The Hobbit, it looks really bad.
Yeah, I think if you use like CGI sparingly, or especially when you use like close-ups or medium close-ups, if it's supposed to be a monster or something, and it's practical effects, it's much more alarming, and like for in this instance body horror, it's gross. Seeing Grant in like that makeup, it's gross. But if it was CGI, I could tell it was a computer, and it would look gross, but I would know it's not a real thing. I would know it's like someone drew it up or created it. And I think if you can use it in that way, and then when like Grant slithers away later or earlier in the film, that's CGI clearly, but it's not jarring. It's used to show how fast he is. It's not a close up. It's kind of pulled back.
Yeah, he's far away.
Yeah, and it kind of looks menacing still because he's like moves so quickly and he's so big, but it's not a close up shot of him. And so finding that good blend, that good medium, is necessary in any film. But I think James Gunn did a good job in this one.
I agree.
Before we get into like, I think like box office or trivia, I just wanted to bring up you guys' thoughts on this. And I noticed one point in the movie is Starla and Grant are together, but Grant's several years older, right? He's supposed to be depicted as like could be your father almost, right?
Yeah,
I could go along with that.
I don't know, what the age difference is, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah. And I found it, and this was like later on after like really trying to research the film, is the first instance we see them together is he wants to be intimate, make a move, and she doesn't. And he takes that as, are you not interested in me anymore? And like this ability for her not to be attracted to him, is it because he's like older and he's not as attractive anymore to this younger woman? So the whole movie then is a body horror movie for him of slowly degenerating into this like gross monstrous parasite, which is way worse than what he ever could have possibly expected. It's like, which is what horror should do, is like it preys on those fears that you have, but it was like more subtle in this one, because like his drive was like, you know, at the beginning was like, oh, maybe she's not attracted to me, and she definitely is not by the end of the film, because you're a gross monster that eats everybody and makes them your slaves essentially.
Yeah, no coming back from that.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting take. Makes sense, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I picked up on it more explicitly when, with his actions, where like at the beginning, where he's still kind of humanoid, but he has like that stuff on his chest. But she doesn't know, Elizabeth Banks, Starla doesn't know. And you can tell he's like hungry, and he sees her in the shower and starts going towards the shower. Oof. And then he like stops himself. He's like, I gotta go to the office. It's like clearly the parasite is telling him that's what he wants. He's hungry, but Grant is still there, and he's like, no, I love this woman. I'm not gonna do that. Which is how the movie then transpires forever. And even that last scene before he, like, spoilers, blows up. Like, the look in his eye is, like, very human. Like, reaching out. You can kind of see that he's still there. Even though he's gross, he's still there mentally somewhat. Yeah. Grant.
Grant.
All right. So, with that, do we have any trivia? Does this movie enlist itself to any trivia, production notes of any sort?
You know it.
Insert trivia theme.
I got some trivia for you guys.
Okay.
Yes. So, as always, I like to go to IMDb for the trivia. I usually can find the best stuff there. As we kind of already touched on earlier, I think we can see a lot of horror movie influences with this movie. The director says that he was inspired by and wanted to honor movies like The Thing, Return of the Living Dead, Basket Case, and The Fly. So I think it does successfully pay homage to all of those and many more in the genre, as we already kind of mentioned a few. So that's a lot of those direct inspirations right there. I'm sure you guys probably caught this, but in the secluded house where the family is getting attacked, there's the two younger daughters, and right when they're being told like to go to bed, one of them is reading the Goosebumps book, The Girl Who Cried Monster, and I just
that was great.
Love that. And like I'm pretty sure
I literally went Goosebumps.
all of us read those growing up, right?
I screamed at DeCourtney. I was like, she's reading Goosebumps.
I did too. My girlfriend, Goosebumps.
Oh man, yeah, and that, I don't know. That was kind of like, I mean, to me, like Goosebumps were kind of like a '90s, thing. I guess early 2000s, but this is 2006, and to see people, even if it's just in a movie, still reading Goosebumps, like that was very heartwarming and reassuring to me.
Yeah.
So, we know, this is actually kind of, I guess, one interpretation of it. We know that our character, Grant, is pretty controlling of Starla, and is always concerned about other men being interested in her, and then when he gets the chance to sleep with Brenda, he actually ends up refuting her, and the director explains that Grant died as soon as he was attacked and infected, but what remained was still much of his personality, including his true love for Starla. So that explains why she's never, she doesn't suffer the same fate as the rest of them do.
Should we go into thoughts about this movie, Defend and Destroy, or do you have one more tidbit that you like to share?
I had one more tidbit I thought, but you guys might know, is... was this a box office success or flop?
I already know.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It was no good. No good for Slither. Big bomb. Box office bomb.
Yeah,
right?
It's weird because, like, I don't know how you could, like... It just screams like a cult following movie. So It's just like, I feel like it's hard to like market this movie.
Yeah. I agree. It's, first of all, budget was $15 million before marketing, so it was like $30 million total. Only made $13 million at the box office. And to what you said, Pete, the guy who ran the studio was like, it was really hard to market comedy horror at this time because comedy horror wasn't big in 2006. But he thought it was a great movie. That's why he produced it. And he's like, but we had to market it when nothing else was like it. And so people didn't go out and want to see it, which is a great point, I think, to which I'm a little foreshadowing of my Defend or Destroy. I think this was a very good movie. It has a cult following. But if this would have came out like 5, maybe 10 years later, it would have been a hit. Like, like the comedy horror now, like Cooties, Little Kids, Tucker and Dale, Cabin in the Woods, like comedy reflexive horror was like from like 2013 on. That's what people wanted, and this would, if it was made last year, I feel like Slither would have been a box office success.
Yeah, that was like at the tail end of like kind of like early Saw era, where it's like everything was like torture porn, like people like to say.
Hostel.
Yeah, it was like that was there very much that era of horror in the early to mid 2000s for sure.
100%, yeah.
I guess it was well received by critics, right? But it just didn't have that commercial following until later.
Yeah. Like, it's still, critical reception was good, and it's 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, people...
That's pretty high.
Them. Yeah. I don't have anything else unless you guys want to go into Defend or Destroy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is like, who wants to start off?
I can. So, as I said, I wasn't too sure what to expect about this movie, because I didn't know anything about it. And, like, right from the get-go, when we start out with a meteor hitting the Earth, I really wasn't too sure about what was about to transpire. But I actually really liked the direction it was going in pretty shortly after, because it was sci-fi, but it wasn't too sci-fi. And I enjoyed the humor sprinkled without. It does sort of remind me of some of the horror movies we've already watched, like Dead Alive and Dead Heat, in terms of, like, the gross factor. But also them kind of zombie-esque movies, too, like Train to Busan. Like we've talked about, it's got horror, comedy, and sci-fi elements to it. I thought the pacing was really good. It was disgusting, and I think it was truly made for horror movie fans. And so it's a B movie, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a defend for me.
I totally forgot that we did Dead Alive. I literally forgot we did that movie.
It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, I remember that was pretty traumatic for you, Lindsay. That's a very gross movie.
Yeah, it was.
I guess I'll go next if that's okay with you, Matt.
Yeah, go for it.
Obviously I picked this movie for a reason. I liked it. I would say I don't like it as much as I used to. I think, I don't know. It's not like it's a bad movie. I think now, like, viewing it much later, I was like, oh, it's not as good as I remember, but still, like, a good, like, little horror movie, like, made on a smaller budget, and, like, definitely, like, we've pointed out all the good things. Like, it's, like, got good comedy, it, like, uses its resources very well, and, like, I think, like you said, Lindsay, like, if you like horror movies, like, it's definitely, like, something you should seek out. Oh, that's a defend.
Yeah. Well, to follow that up, I will round it out with a unanimous defend. So for all three of us, I really enjoyed Slither. It was on my list forever since 2006 when I was in 8th grade, and it took me what is it, 14 years to finally get around to it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
So it took me forever, but I was pleasantly surprised, like, all around. Agreeing with Lindsay, it was great pacing. Like, it's 95 minutes, which is good for a horror movie. It's like a nice length, but the rising action was constant. Something was always going on. And even though it's like aliens and zombies, it was believable rising action that kind of one thing led to another, to another, to another, until finally the climax. So I was always engaged. The practical effects were great, I thought, mixed with the CGI. It was gross. Like, there was a lot of gross scenery in this movie from Grant's metamorphosis. Like, a lot of that. Like, the things coming out of his chest. Just to, like look like rashes almost at the start. And
yeah.
Like, even that was gross before he became the full-blown monster. He was, like, drooling and, like, had a bunch of teeth. It was gross, but then funny. Like, funny at the right moments, where like the mayor would break in with great cathartic moments where, like, you would say what the character would say what you were thinking, probably.
Yeah.
And made a funny joke that was like Like, okay, great. Like, it's not just me who thinks that's crazy. The characters think it's crazy as well. So it was all around. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie to check out. So defend. With that in mind, I think it's to view it. It's Amazon Prime. You can rent it. I'm not sure if it's on Shudder. Pete, do you know?
No, it wasn't on Shudder. Like I remember saying that like the only reason I was able to watch it because I rented it from like a local video store, and like I'm pretty like Lindsay.
Okay.
I'm sure you had to rent it as well, right? From like Amazon.
I would not recommend watching it on 123 Movies, which is what I did. So yeah, you're better off just renting it.
That's funny. Yeah,
Gotcha.
at least I mean, hey, that's a way to save yourself some money. Whatever.
That was the idea.
Yeah, it's like, hey, these are trying times. We gotta cut down some costs.
You get me?
Yeah. So basically, you can find it on the internet, whether for rent or through whatever other site you find, but not by subscription. No subscription will offer this for you.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
you can find, Google and iTunes and Amazon, wherever. But yeah, check it out. But thank you for tuning in for this Slither episode by James Gunn, 2006. We've appreciated it. In the meantime, get at us on Facebook, Twitter, our website. We love hearing from you on the forums, what you want us to do, blogs to write. We're writers. We love writing. We want to know what you think. Leave us a review on SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts. That's where you'll find us, really. You're not going to find us on Spotify, but you can try. You can try all you want. You may find
I don't know
us.
how to do it. I'm sure you have to pay.
Yeah. But thanks for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Matt Johnson. And I remain in the shadows, where I'm going to go watch the season premiere of What We Do in the Shadows.
Ooh, I gotta watch that. I'm Peter, and I have nothing clever to say.
And Lindsay Clark, goodbye.